everybody, it's PJ from Karma Airguns and DonnyFL, and we are going to talk today about how we tune the Karma Airguns new Red Panda. So the tuning on this rifle, if you've never done any tuning before, is relatively simple. If you've done a lot of other tuning, you may find that most of those skills are transferable, meaning what you've done in the past is going to apply to what you do in the future. But we do have a few tricks that we want to share with you today. So before we get going actually on the gun, I want to talk to you about a couple of things that you'll need in order to make this happen. First of all, you need pellets. We absolutely recommend tuning the rifle to the pellets that you're going to be shooting. And this is a competition rifle, so let's just say the pellets you're going to shoot in competition. I think a lot of people just assume if pellets have the same weight, they're going to fly the same. And with more and more pellet companies entering, especially the 30 caliber marketplace, there are subtle differences in the shape of the pellet, and that's going to influence maybe how fast you should, could, or want to fly that pellet. So you want to tune it for the pellet you're going to use. Second, you need a chronograph. I use the FX True Ballistics chronograph because I have access to it. There's lots of good chronographs out there, and in the end, it doesn't so much matter what chronograph you're using, but that you have one that you know and trust and know it's going to get the job done for you while you're working. So you will need that. The third thing is a 5mm Allen key. This is going to be used for adjusting the regulator up or down. And then the final thing is an air source. Tuning can be one of those processes where you get lucky, you follow a good workable progression, and it's fairly efficient. You don't have to shoot too much to get to the tune, and then you can get to the fun shooting. But there are those times where you just seem like you're chasing something, and it's frustrating when that's punctuated by long delays because you're trying to sort air out. So definitely want to have a good supply of air on site. Fill up the tank before you go. With that stuff out of the way, I want to talk about the regulator pressure, and I'm going to speak directly to the 30 cal pellet version of the Red Panda. If you're tuning for 50 grain projectiles, I would encourage you to start the tuning process with somewhere around 2,100, 2,150 PSI on the regulator. Now the Panda has two regulators. One's kind of a pre-regulator, and then one is the shooting regulator. And you'll see right here it says regulator 2. This is actually the shooting regulator, and this is the adjustment. So if you're going for that 50 grain, again, 2100, 2150, somewhere in there. If you're gonna go for a 44 grain variant, you may want to drop that regulator pressure down to between 18 and 1900 PSI. I have not had an opportunity to explore where the rifle wants to be with 56 grain pellets. I know those are out there. I would start around that 2150, maybe go to 2200, but you're gonna have to do a little bit of experimentation on your end in order to come up with something. And what I would ask is for all of you who are watching who do your own tunes, it would be awesome if in the comments to this video, you could list regulator pressures, and later when we get into hammer spring, if you could list sort of a ballpark start point for people. I think we can turn this video into a really good resource, especially those of you who I know who are really good shooters, good tuners, and among the first to own this rifle. This rifle is set up to shoot the 50 grain pellets, and so its regulator pressure is just north of 2100. Start with a reg pressure, okay? Take that ballpark, start with that. The next thing that I would do is back out the hammer spring. And I want to explain how this hammer spring works, how the adjustment works, so that there's no confusion about it. It is a rotary adjustment, meaning it spins, and it can be spun from a right-handed shooter's perspective away from you, which will decrease the hammer spring, and towards you, and that will increase the hammer spring. So rotating it clockwise decreases hammer spring, rotating it counterclockwise, or for those of you in the UK, anti-clockwise, will increase hammer spring tension. When I'm tuning, I'm a right-handed shooter, so I'm always sitting on the rifle's left-hand side. So I think of it in terms of going up, turning towards me, and going down, turning away from me. So with the hammer spring set and the rifle pointed downrange in a safe direction, we're in the studio today, so won't be pulling this trigger. You want to load in a magazine, and I would fire 3 shots over the chronograph. I would not pause intentionally between those shots. You certainly don't have to rapid fire, but on a shoot, cock, shoot, cock, shoot kind of pace, I'm gonna watch what happens across the chronograph. If you see an ascendance, right? And I'm just gonna throw out some numbers here. 785, 842, 886. What that's telling me is you do not have enough hammer spring for that particular regulator setting. And I would turn up 3 clicks. I would wait 10 or 15 seconds, and I would shoot it again. And I would keep doing that until what I see from the first shot to the last shot is less than a 10 foot per second deviation. So again, if you're pausing 10, 15 seconds tops, and you shoot 3 times, you're gonna see one of 3 things. You're either gonna see the velocity climb, and that means you need more hammer spring, or you're gonna see the velocity drop over those 3 shots, and that means you need less hammer spring, or you're gonna see balance between the hammer spring and the regulator setting. Now, sometimes you go through that process and you find that balance where you get a very tight extreme spread, but the velocity is too low or too high for what you want to do with the rifle. At that point, I would back out the hammer spring, adjust the regulator up or down, and then start the process over. Now, as far as adjusting the regulator goes, this is where you need your 5mm Allen. This follows a fairly standard process for adjusting regulator. If you want to turn the regulator up, then you're going to put the Allen in and you're going to rotate counterclockwise. Counterclockwise gives you higher regulator pressure, and you can do that with the rifle pressurized, and you can make big changes if you want. Now, I will caution you or tell you, your regulator gauge is on the opposite side back here, so you want to do this in a way where you can watch that gauge, because small adjustments can make a fairly big difference. If you want to turn the regulator down, your options include degassing the gun, and there's a Allen over here that will bleed the pressure out of the gun, or you can make small adjustments followed by dry firing the gun 6 to 10 times, check the regulator pressure, make another small adjustment. The thing to know about adjusting the regulator down is you're not going to see it on the gauge, because the pressure that this gauge is reading is the pressure in the plenum, and that's not changing because you turn the regulator pressure down. So you have to make very small. And what am I talking about when I say small? So you recognize that there's a circle, right? I am not making more than like 1/8 of a turn without dry firing the gun. If you do a 1/4 turn while it's under pressure, you'll damage the regulator and void the warranty. At most, 1/8 of a turn. I make very small adjustments shoot 6 or 10 times, look at the gauge, did it go where I want it to go? If not, another small adjustment, look at the gauge, take the shots, did it do what I want? If needed, another small adjustment. I can't stress this enough. You made a significant investment in this rifle. I don't want to see anything bad happen to it. So small adjustments followed by 6 to 10 dry fires, check the gauge, is it where I want it to go? Either make another adjustment or try at that pressure. The other caution that I want to make is that all of these hammer spring adjusters work based on pre-compressing the spring. The spring is going to be more compressed after you have cocked the rifle. If you're making hammer spring adjustments on a cocked rifle, you are probably damaging the internal components of your rifle and doing things like voiding a warranty. Don't do it. If you're not sure, take the shot downrange in a safe direction into a backstop and then make the hammer spring adjustments. So no hammer spring adjustments while the rifle is cocked. Make sure you're doing that, and this goes for any rifle that I'm aware of that you're tuning. Make sure you're aware of what situation your rifle is in, and if in doubt, decock the rifle, or better yet, make sure that you're in a safe direction, take that shot, clear it all out, and then make the adjustment. Your tuning will go smoother. Let's say you're decreasing the reg pressure because you want to hit a lower velocity. Your tuning will go smoother if before you drop the reg pressure, you back out the hammer spring a little bit. And the hammer spring it's not a numeric gradation, but it does have a little bit of a gradient to it. It's certainly easy enough to take a picture of it, so you got a ballpark for any given tune if you want to try and get back to it. So if you are looking right here, find where I'm looking. So if you're looking right here, you'll see that there is a bunch of dashes and then a silver part in the middle. That's telling you where your hammer spring is. And towards the front of the gun, it's set higher. Towards the back of the gun, it's set lower. So you're able to look at that, and if I'm going to lower the regulator pressure, I would back out the hammer spring a bit, get that new regulator pressure set, and then work up. Again, watching the chronograph, taking 3 or 4 shots in a row. When the hammer spring is low for a given regulator pressure, you will see an escalation of velocity. If it is too high for a given regulator pressure, you will see a descent in velocity on multiple shots. And when it is in balance, and that's where you want to shoot for maximum efficiency and accuracy, you will see that velocity, no matter how often you shoot, how fast you shoot, it just stays consistent, easily within 10 feet per second. In fact, I just had one of our Saber Tactical teammates in here. We set up a quick tune on his gun, and probably within 3 magazines, we were able to get to a stable velocity at, I think it was 937-ish feet per second. And we were shooting, I think, total with a 7 foot per second extreme spread. Very stable and really an easy rifle to work with. Pick a reg pressure and then work the hammer spring. Now, there are times where I have found really good consistency. I mean, really good consistency, but that velocity was a little bit higher than what I really wanted for shooting. That's where I make the choice to go to the transfer port adjustment. And there's 2 sides to that. It's very easy to use. Basically, you back off the screw that's on the right side of the rifle, and then you turn the dial on the left side. The left side dial has gradients on it. So again, a good opportunity to take a picture of your reg pressure, take a picture of where your hammer spring is, and then take a picture of your transfer port. And that way, if you change something, you at least have a ballpark to go back to that tune. It shouldn't take you too long to get back to a tune you liked in the past, which may give you the courage to try for something even better once you get to something that's pretty good. So once you have that adjustment set, you just tighten on the right side. You don't have to make that gorilla tight. Just snug it up a little bit, and that's not going to move on you. I will say that in using this transfer port now for a little bit, the first quarter of the adjustment is really very small, a couple of feet per second. And it seems like the real bulk of the adjustment, you know, if you're trying to drop it 20 or 30 feet per second, you're probably going to be down in the mid range, at least on the 30 cal, tuning for 50 grain pellets. So different calibers, that's probably going to be a little bit different. If you have other questions about tuning, please be sure to throw those down in the comments, and we will do our best to keep on top of those. If you are having success tuning your own rifle and care to share, we'd love it if you would throw your successful tunes into the comments, including what pellet you're tuning for, as well as hammer spring, regulator pressure, and transfer port. And until the next video, everybody, shoot safe, shoot straight, and we'll see you around.